try and model it, analyze it, and then execute with it more or less. And so the way that this works, essentially we take unstructured data from a variety of sources. And these sources, again, would be, when we say unstructured, we're not saying that this is like we're taking random images in like a Dropbox and we're turning that into events. That's not what we mean here. What we mean by unstructured is in terms of, this is relative to the purpose that you're using it for. So for example, if you have a social media event, like say a Trump tweet, it's not necessarily in a quantitative format or a format structured in a method that you could backtest, for instance, for financial trading purposes. Does that make sense? So what we do is we're building a platform that deals with hundreds of thousands of different websites, and we are monitoring these websites for changes, for updates. And when those changes happen, we structure those into formats and themes that would allow a user to make financial investment decisions. For example, it's taking something like in Hong Kong, this is an older data set. This is an old deck, by the way, but before COVID, you can see that the Hong Kong has a Sevens event, the largest rugby event in the world, and it's taking place in Hong Kong. So you would say, well, what time zone is it? When does it occur? When is the start date? We can basically extract that data right from your website. So if the date moves or there's something that happens, our system would detect that and it would keep the data up to date. So we cover a variety of topics. This is Typhoon 8 signals. We did the same exact thing right from governmental websites, keeping things in order. So it's basically like a Wikipedia for, say, all things Hong Kong split up by category. So, for example, here's a use case. This is just an older deck. It was, what's the effect in the first 48 hours? So very, very busy deck, very busy. If you look at the Typhoon 8 signals, you say, well, what stocks react 100% of the time in the first 48 hours of a Typhoon 8 signal? And you have the second largest beverage company in Hong Kong, Vitasoy, and you have the second largest brewery in China, both reacting differently. The brewery drops, the beverage company goes up. The Vitasoy has juice, tea, water, coffee, lemonade, etc. The Tsingtao is just beer. And so the bars are closed after hurricanes, etc. But the idea is that somebody would basically have a transparent decision about why an event like this could impact financial price. So it's kind of in the spirit of the way you guys talked about in terms of adding transparency with AI. We do it differently. We didn't use it to make a prediction in sort of fancy way, maybe with the way other people do, but we basically work with the truth. Our goal is to find the truth, right? And we use AI to structure the pages and keep the pages up to date and clean in order to get this insight. So again, just as a reiteration, we cover different types of topics from sports to religions to beliefs. You can compare us to, say, like Ken showed Bloomberg or Thomson Reuters, and we cover very nuanced stuff like Asians with superstitions. We map events to other things. Apple releases an iPad, we could compare that to, say, events that would compared to the Surface Pro or something like that. And we basically have full industry calendars that exceed just financial services. But within the age of COVID, the world has changed. So this is really what we were focusing on. The main purpose you asked earlier was, what is this about, who we solve? It's just really all about alternative data. This is not necessarily always about addressing a particular customer segment. There are various different types of people who need to incorporate this type of information during the decision-making process. And we've done pilots also in Singapore and in Hong Kong and in the UK, even in areas of retail. So if someone wanted to know if it's an 85-degree day in their town, do they sell more Pepsi or Coke, or do they sell more iced tea or lemonade? They can, using our database, they can answer these types of questions around data and other types of real-world events that ordinarily would be impossible. Okay, so again, this is kind of some examples. Might be seasonal automotive trends. One example might be, okay, on an up day in the Hang Seng Shanghai Index, Is it, does our customer segment likely to come in and peruse S-Class Mercedes-Benzes or E-Class Mercedes-Benzes, and why? And what's our effective rate on closing, right? This is the type of stuff we've actually done, right? Energy forecasting, quantitative trading, other types of things. This is just an example. When Microsoft releases a Surface Pro, this is the impact on Apple's stock price in the 48 hours following historically. I mean, this is incredible. Just an example. I mean, obviously this changes over time, obviously, but for this window, it's an incredible strategy. Other examples are what's the effect of Lockheed Martin, one of the largest defense contractors in the U.S., versus North Korean missile tests. This is intuitive to the mind, but if you can get this answer really quickly, it's valuable, right? The Hong Kong Rugby Sevens versus exchange rates. You have, as you read down below, you didn't say, but there's 120,000 tourists, 40,000 which are coming from Australia into Hong Kong. They're buying the currency, right? And then, so you can see there's a fluctuation in and around the event, right? And very rarely do people feel they can predict foreign exchange prices so reliably, but a tool like this can help create that narrative, right? I think a moving average is not going to do it. So just at a high level, again, this would just help you kind of develop a frame of reference for literally what we focus on. But this can be applied in many number of ways, and maybe to your business also. And I'm open-minded about that.
Yes. I think this is really cool, and yeah, definitely. I think these are really good use cases. I think you've seen, and yeah, and also last time you showed the database. I think that's really powerful. Kind of accumulation of the data and stuff, right? One of the two fundamental questions I had was, Benoit, here, that when you collect all the data, right, unstructured data, did you do any intelligent clustering? Obviously, how do you group all this? Obviously, when you look at your web data, when you look at perhaps the specific government websites or anything like that, you need to relate kind of entities, right? Basically, whether it's belong to Donald Trump, whether it belongs to HSBC, whether it belongs to multiple entities. But how do you? Is it something you do as well?
Yeah, so we actually, our secret weapon is a former head, a couple excellent librarians from things like Library of Congress, and we just basically organize data almost in a card catalog fashion, just very efficiently using human intelligence. But we do keep it up to date, and we do link it intelligently. So basically, we just have really an expert domain, a domain expert who can help us organize this kind of breadth of knowledge across all these pretty idiosyncratic range of topics. So we do intelligent clustering in the sense that we can match tags, can allow users to kind of filter across different types of themes. For example, as you saw before, I can look at Trump, or I can look up executive orders, and I can see the range of different types of categories, or I can look up, say, veteran topics, or the US holidays, or Colombia holidays, or Sri Lankan holidays, and I can kind of just parse it. So we're open-minded and for collaborations around how we can improve that process. So if you guys have a system that could kind of make that process of categorization and clustering and cleanup way better, we're open to it. Some of the things that kind of pose a challenge, to be fair, is that most of our data is linked, meaning like if you were to go back a couple of slides, in this particular deck, it doesn't show it, but there's other categories that actually shows like a URL, a source, and it basically says where do we get the data from. So I mean, you can literally, and that data location for each individual date could change, right? So, for example, let's say it's a World Economic Forum event. I mean, that link would be different for each year, right? So the idea is that how much of that do you need to do? What cost does it have? And it's basically, and then what's the benefit? So the idea is that if you could do that, if you focus on that, we're willing to have a conversation around that, because it's not something that we've actually solved on like an absolute basis. It's something that we like to. It just seems such like a broad topic that we could definitely use some partnerships.
Yeah, for sure. I think that is definitely, I think, we've been looking at, much more in advanced ways of clustering. You might understand some things in AI, you can look at multi-dimensional clustering and things like that. But of course, you need to know context, and also whether you talked about things like entities and also things like named entities and also things like network analysis. You might have done that already in your platform. Example, how Trump is related to an example, as event there, or maybe perhaps, a company there, or, there are a lot of different techniques can be applied, but of course, without looking at the context of, what can be able to, at least, I think once you look at the context, then definitely I think there could be different techniques applied in terms of, dynamic clustering, or maybe things like much more advanced things like embedded topic modeling, which is kind of more, topic modeling is simple, like one word at a time. When you look at embeddings, like, then you can have a group of words together, then you can have some similarities. And yeah, I think the good thing is that you have some data sets, which is obviously a good start. And at least once we know the business problem or the context, what we're looking at there, then probably we can definitely look at, for sure.
See if I can show you something else. Hang on. So essentially, we have here. So most of the machine learning that we do after we collect the data, we put it in our database, and we use machine learning to keep it clean. And the AI we use is literally around helping our clients leverage the algorithms they have and to make better predictions. But we're not making predictions. We just give them the framework to do that. So we provide algorithms that they can use however they see fit to make that work. As it pertains to like the way in which our model is linked, we do have linkages in terms of like entities. For example, if you wanted to say Apple or Tesla, are they in the same index? Yes, we know they were both in the S&P 500 and also in the S&P 500 technology sector. You would know, say it's a daily time frame or something like that. You would know, are they competitors? In what area? No, more likely partners. There's a partnership between Tesla and Apple for their cars. This types of things. These are types of evolutions. And for example, data from FactSet would help us connect supply chains or geographically. We can get that from, say, are their headquarters in the same place? Is Tesla moving? Is the CEO moving? These types of things. And these types of models could be expanded. Is it thorough in terms of like we have everything about everything on an absolute basis? Hell no, right?
Yeah.
We're trying, right?
This is cool.
Yeah, but this is just kind of a framework of like how we would work. Right?
Yeah.
This is more of the archetype than a guarantee that you're going to find it absolutely like this everywhere.
Perfect.
But some places.
No, I agree. I think it's really good. I think this is really interesting. I think fundamental difference I can tell if I understand it right. If you use a rule-based engine there, basically to find out exactly which will go to the different bucket. Obviously, with the events, what you're talking about, like like time series and these kind of problems, it's very difficult to find out. This is where AI, obviously, I don't know how deep in technology you're using something like unsupervised something clustering behaviors. You can able to do like it's many to many, right? It's never one to one. And this is where I believe there could be some optimize. I don't know, without looking at the data. If you already have done that, I think for sure we can look at that kind of models, and we can start with a simple case and then broaden the scope. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think it's a binary, right? It's not a binary, is it?
It's not a binary. No, I wish. That's why it's complicated. This is why I almost sound uncertain about it, but I'm not uncertain about it. It's just a lot of. It's not binary.
Yes, definitely. That's good. It's not. It's a many to many, and of course, of course, that's good to know.
If it's extreme, I have to present it differently. But if it's like talking to other people who get it, then it's
we're working on similar kind of complex problems like that. Obviously, we're looking at the kind of what is inside one of the thing and how do we relate to do like Facebook data to Twitter to kind of Instagram. If you look at the context of people talking about the similar topic, and actually you can many I think there is some similarities. We can apply that methodology. And what was that word cloud? Is it the one before?
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Oh, this is basically just kind of explaining, kind of in a simple way, kind of our basic business model. You combine market data and your own data. For example, say a prime broker. That could be a client. They have phone call data from their clients. They have different types of trading data from their clients and research they've sold them or share with them. What do they do with it, right?
Got it,
Is the event trade? Is the event an outcome? Like, our clients moving the stocks? Like, if the stock's going down and make a couple phone calls, the guy puts on a position, what is the efficacy rate of this guy's, efficiency rate of this guy's trading operations? Like they can do this type of stuff using our tools.
I agree.
That's
really
other
cool.
examples. Yeah. And again, the machine learning there is just more so about just like finding, I mean, obviously looking for your p-values, you're looking for whatever types of metrics you want, and you can just kind of building your own table, matrix, I guess, to kind of parse that in an intelligent way to get something valuable out of it.
Perfect.
That's going to vary depending on your time series, your data sets, your inputs, your events, your market data. I mean, it's whatever you make, right?
Right. I think just a quick question, Benoit, there. I think I'll let Ali also speak. When you say machine learning there, what kind of classic models you're using there? Is it mainly classification, or are you using anything like, do you know anything? I mean, what kind of specific?
Yeah, we're doing some ensemble modeling.
Ensemble.
We're doing some
Ensembling, okay.
And we're just kind of confluence studies, doing because there's clustering. I mean, but again, it's more so of a lot of ensemble, a lot of solving for confluence. You know, say on a July 4th holiday in the United States, where the president has given a speech the day before or the day of, and there was a North Korean missile test, right? Like, what do you do in the context of that? How do you think about that?
Right.
You know, are there precedents for that? That type of stuff. I mean,
okay,
oil's above 100. You know, there's a protest or something in Sudan or something. You know, or Nigeria. What do we do? You know,
I agree.
it's more so just from the event analysis perspective. It's not. Well, it's good. I don't want to downplay that. That's exactly what it is. They're just kind of combining multiple events. Develop a model.
Perfect. Yeah, great. Ali, sorry, go ahead. I just interrupted you. You have a question?
I don't know. You didn't interrupt. I was just listening intently.
Okay.
Any questions? I'm open. I'm curious. I mean, any questions? Any concerns? Any gaps? And I'm happy to answer.
I'll ask an obvious question. Sorry, I mean, in this market, in terms of what you've explained to us, who are the other sort of players? Is it, are there analytics companies? Are there, is Google doing something in this space? It seems to me that you're providing quite a specific service. You have a number of products, but I'm trying to understand in terms of the market landscape, who else is playing in this space? Maybe an obvious question. My apologies if that's the case. But
S&P is probably the most notable name playing in this space. I don't think anyone else is playing in this space. S&P acquired Kensho. So you had a couple names. There's a couple names that started to. So Kensho got acquired by S&P, I think, several years back, and that's essentially now formed a bit of their the key business doing market research. I mean, S&P Market Intelligence has some units that are devoted to this type of thing.
Okay. Familiar with S&P, not familiar with 10x, but I'll look into that. I actually worked on a project where S&P had acquired a national ratings-based agency in India, and we did some work with them. Yeah, not surprised S&P already has some of the richest.
S&P covers everything from indices to market intelligence to. Yeah. I mean, they do index deconstruction, supply chain research. I mean, they're bigger than it's obviously ratings. I mean, it's S&P is just massive. It's probably it's the biggest financial service company in my opinion in the world in terms of.
Right.
I don't even know how to describe them.
That's right. And also, we had some conversations in summertime with Moody's, in Moody's Corporation as well in the UK. I think obviously everyone claimed that they have the best data set and they are the best ones to go and spend millions on that, right? And
everyone does that.
Could be Thomson Reuters, that's our Reuters, and obviously the Moody's and obviously the big ones. And for sure, I think what you developed, I think Benoit, I think which is really brilliant actually. Obviously you bootstrap the company, and obviously with your technical exposure and also understanding the industry exposure, I think you've got a comprehensive, quite a lot. interesting stuff, I think, for sure. I think you ideally go for the mid markets. Is it what you go for, Benoit?
Yeah, I mean, mostly mid-market. I mean, this is, again, like we don't go after two sigmas or things like that. I mean, they do approach us, but we're talking maybe, $300 million AUM family offices to $4 or $5 billion up to $10 billion firms is what we target. I mean, do we have other clients that come to us for different things outside of that? Yes. Some people just buy our data. We don't know what they do with it. Some people just come and buy calendars. They say, hey, I want every gaming console event announcement and release on time as it's coming in as an API. We would serve that up.
Cool. So it's good.
Or even an economic calendar. They can buy that from virtually anywhere. But I mean, I think ours, if we look at what we cover even in this example here, we have CEO speeches, we have industry conferences, we have product launches, product announcements, etc. So if you were to say highlight what was going on in Apple at that particular point in time in the past, this is probably one of the only tools. In fact, I don't think S&P offers a tool like this. We can go back and say, well, what should I have known about that moment? And this is something that Google does not offer. And again, you try to go to Google News or Google Finance.
It doesn't give any context, isn't it? I mean, it's, and also the good. Yeah.
To say the least.
That's nice. And I think what I really see is that it's not only that one source you gathered the data, you actually had a comprehensive multiple sources of obviously coming from press releases, perhaps from Google News, and perhaps from some proprietary sources, I think, which actually makes the puzzle complete, right? Which is a good thing also. And is it right?
Yeah, yes, exactly. I mean, it's the breadth of data is, it's the whole magic, really.
Cool.
Because it gives,
Cool, that's really good. I think I really like it. And, just a couple of maybe few things. I think obviously how you're mainly focusing on the data, like, 10 years or maybe historical data, right? Is it when you access, how about real-time data, like an example, if you wanted to monitor a specific topic, an example, okay, if I have a requirement for monitoring HSBC, right, as a global bank, where do you start? Or, obviously, is it that you go to obvious sources like Google and perhaps, I'm talking about the right now data, like, at this moment, 4:45 in the UK. If I give you, I wanted to monitor HSBC right now, all the way, for the next 3 days, just give me all the data from the web as well as social media. Is it something you do that, or is it already you have a list of entities you've been keep?
Yeah, to answer your question, Raj, we work very specifically, right? So we're like surgeons, or neurosurgeons. So in the sense of this, we would basically say, a client will ask, would say, they typically are like domain experts. They would say, I want to know something very specific about something. So, for example, if they wanted to say, show me all the HSBC security breaches, right? We would focus on that specific area of the universe, right? We would, and we could do that, right?
Got it.
But we would not just try to cover everything HSBC related, because of the way that we work, it doesn't fit into our model.
Correct. Right? That's brilliant. That's brilliant, because I think that is important. The relevant information is so important, because otherwise, you just like a lot of junk, right? You don't know what you're looking for. And I think that's good. And okay, and you've been collecting the data, like you said, your database you showed that has got a lot of already the largest compilation of the information as said, right? You can already do that for some entities and perhaps like press releases or anything like the historical events.
Yeah, for example, like publicly traded companies have to use certain press release firms in order to release data. We can map a company name to a ticker, and that's light work for us. It was like version 1. So yeah, we can do press releases. We can do, say, like certain news sources if they have an API. We do have news APIs that already do that for us also. So some sources do it, some places we have to do it. Regulatory filings are generally straightforward, right? If you go to Edgar, obviously you can map those tickers. So I mean, some of the work is done, some of the work isn't so straightforward, but we can organize it all in our database in one place very easily for people to find what they need.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, that's really interesting. Actually, I think that the main thing what you mentioned about specific clients will have a specific question, and then they will you'll curate the data, and then you'll give an API access for them. Okay, here you go. Here is your data. You play around and apply whatever it is, AI or analytics on the data, and then you get the results, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's again, it's the you have to have again the issue with that is you need a sophisticated client, right? Most of the time, sometimes they're like, well, show me something. I want to know something about some big topic, and yeah, focusing on the few that actually do know what they need to do is definitely then yeah, exactly that's they come with something very specific problem they want.
Got it. Got it, got it. And also, Benoit, last time you showed your database, I think, right? Which is like, you showed some of the events or something.
Oh yeah, could you repeat the question? So sorry.
Yeah. So last time you showed the database, the one you had some historical events or something. You have something to share, or for Ali and others information?
Oh yeah, I thought you were going to. I thought you were going to share your database this time. I can do that, but.
Sure, definitely, sure. I think this is really great. I'll share that presentation as well to Ali as well, and we've got 12 minutes, right? I think I'll show you something briefly what we're doing, and following on what we talked last time. I think this is really very informative, and also I believe that definitely we go away and see how best we can able to apply in some of the financial services use cases we have. And also coming back to your point about how we can collaborate on that side, for sure we can apply some of the intelligent models on the data like clustering and those kind of things, and on a specific use case also we can look at it. But obviously without knowing that, I don't want to say that okay, anything can be, obviously with AI or anything, specific problems sometimes take a lot of time, right? Understanding the metadata, understanding the things what we're looking at and stuff. Yeah.
Example, here's an example, just kind of Trump executive orders, right? And then basically you can see that this is the latest budget and spending executive orders. There's been a history of 11 of them. And we basically just look for change monitoring on the websites. We read the website, organize the tags, and we categorize them correctly. So this is a budget and spending executive order, March 13, 2017, kind of neatly in a data set. A user could essentially do event analytics on this, say, well, what's the effect of a Trump budget and spending executive order on the SPY? And from the close, I can do, say, the open of the day after. So this is one day after the event. I can basically analyze this. And basically what we're doing is when Donald Trump issues a presidential order for budget and spending, I can, using this easy to use GUI, I can say one day after the open to the close, the first day would be the same day close, and look out. I could basically evaluate kind of opportunities. So I could, let's say, Sharpe ratio by say holding days. So I may do it there, holding day horizontally, or holding day by Sharpe. On an annualized basis, you can see the highest Sharpe ratio is 3.5, 42 days out, and you can just kind of from a budget and spending executive order, you could kind of look down, you can scroll through all this stuff, and you can say, well, how much of this is, say, how much of this is beta, right? So 42 days out, it's like 0.9. This is basically a lot of beta, right? 0.98. It's not. It's just kind of some insight you could have really quickly from taking an event like that, turning it. But again, this is the SPY measuring against the S&P index. So of course, there's going to be a high amount of data. So kind of obvious. But if I were to say put in like budget and spending and put in Tesla or something, right? Obviously you get different types of results. The idea is that you can kind of explore in a dashboard different types of metrics in terms of profit factors, the R-squared coefficients, volatility stats, and you can kind of just explore what different types of trading strategies. Does this mean this is causal? No. Does it mean that it's correlated? It can, right? You can just see things like look for low p-values. Again, this is before the S&P was in the Tesla was in the S&P, but you can still find some very interesting distributions related to the NASDAQ, which Tesla is in. So you can see this poses 90% higher on budget and spending things. But again, it's not correlated, it's not causal, it's just just what it is. So
very good.
Just a way to explore data. I mean, there's other tools you can use. You say, well, I don't know what stocks I want to put in. I want to screen. So I could basically say, I'm not gonna use this particular event, but I will if I were to put in a particular event itself, which I could put in here, Cyber Monday, oil discovery, some British petroleum or something, or Winter Olympics. Basically, it'll return a list of the assets that respond to this. I could say from the open price, 1 day after, holding for eight days for 10 years worth of events or whatever. I could basically generate and screen for this criteria for assets that correspond to that. I could say read a little bit more. Again, this is mostly a demo for APIs. Most of the 99% of the work our clients do is in APIs. This is just kind of a front end. We're not front end engineers. We have a lot of API docs. So if you're expecting like a beautiful, sexy UI, we don't do that, but we do have a UI. But most of our work is basically very, very fast. APIs.
No, that's really powerful. I mean, I understand. I think the users will consume an API for a specific curated topic, and then you serve that as an API request, and that here you go, right? This is obviously perfect. I think it's really cool. Yes, I understand. That's really great. I think we should talk about some of the time, maybe Benoit, about that API. If you can able to have a sandbox or something in access where if you have any specific solution or something you're looking at, maybe collaboration aspect, we can talk on that topic, and then we can look at, because first of all, I mean, obviously without knowing the context of what data we'll be using for, because we're not the users, right? We can collaborate on the nature. And also other things about how, if you mentioned about using AI in different topics and maybe like clustering and then kind of things we can apply. And also we can also look at from our connections in the financial services where, some of the use cases where you're already serving. We can also reach out in that nature also to the clients and say, okay, hey, this is a powerful product. We have a data, and also we can apply AI in there. And that could be a revenue opportunity as well in the trade, and especially that areas what you've been helping clients, right? Obviously, as an end product.
So one area that I think is, I mean, you guys buy data and you basically create insights on it. I mean, again, there's no business right now like the data business. So one of the key areas that I like to always highlight in terms of like, if there's an area where we can make sales or data sales, it's probably far better than probably any other thing you can possibly do. In terms of the scalability, the efficiency, the repeatability, et cetera. So if there are data sets that you guys, I mean, and I get deal flow all the time. People come to me and say, hey, I want to buy data on some insight. I need weather, I need this, I need that, I need droughts, I need droughts, I need heat waves, I need these concepts. I need I need something specific that might be describable in terms of data relations, or I need floods, can you help me get this? Right? Or I need some type of high risk event in HSBC. I mean, whatever that is. Like if you have a way to say quantify high risk financial lawsuits against HSBC using sentiment, like fast, well then that's useful, right? There's a market for that, and I can help turn that on, right?
Perfect.
The idea is that we just need to kind of focus on the few things that you guys do exceptionally well. I think the easiest way is to focus on data and just kind of like getting it in a place where we could test it, analyze it, and then if the focus is basically like high dollar sales, there are family offices that come to me and say, hey, I will buy strategies, right? So we don't sell data, but we could help them direct themselves to find. We don't sell strategies always, but we have sold some strategies. But we try not to be in the financial investment business, but people do buy those when you find them and they're valuable. And it allows you to sell something that ordinarily would be a commodity, like a data set, or something that's like a product, something that has a much higher value segment. So again, it's just something like that. There's ways to kind of wrap value around what you do already.
I agree. I think that data asset thing, I think it's really brilliant. I think we haven't really focused on actually, because being a technology AI company, we obviously haven't looked at the aspect. I think maybe people like HSBC, they have a the big interest on that for sure. And obviously, yes, for sure. I think that is definitely a good ready to go, I think, right? What you said, we'll look at it. And also things like in collaboration side of maybe if you can build some use cases together, perhaps with the data, with some of the things what we're doing, that will be also a good opportunity where we can explore a specific, product or kind of offering in that nature, right?
Yeah, of course. I think that's the most important thing we can do. I really think that there is a great intersection we have. There's certain things that you do that we don't do. Yeah, we clearly don't do sentiment. We clearly don't care about the details of the data nearly as much as you guys do and are able to do so. So if we could basically just collaborate around kind of just taking some of the things that you have in your dashboard that I remember seeing last time, and just figuring out how we can structure some events around those things and tell stories and then monitor for things. For example, we monitor things like disasters, we monitor weather, typhoons, etc. And it could just, again, this is actually a creative age, really. I mean,
I agree.
The projects that we're seeing here are going to the thinkers. They're not. I wish it was like, hey, just build some cog and just sell it to some random guy. This is not.
But I think that's kind of a good point, Raj, right? Because, for example, we're both kind of into like financial services, but I see that both products really beyond, like, for example, I've been working on Benoit, like some of the automotive industries, as well as I see some potential, like we're like in educational spaces, essentially like all those data events can be utilized in that space as well.
Yeah, I think it's really good. Benoit, I think you asked to see that, to see our thing, right? Let me run through it quickly because I'll be sorry about that. Let me share it my screen right now. And then
and I would say something too is content is king. Like if there's a way that we can, if we can promote content. Sorry, am I sharing my screen now?
Sure. Definitely. I think, we are definitely working on, it's a good collaboration, I have to say, for sure. I think I'm really pleased to see that, the great detail what you shared, and also Ali as well, I believe. I'll have a good conversation and see how best we can do. Because the power of what we do is really about the real-time search, right? Basically, what you can search about any company, an example, like, Tesla or anything like that, right? An example. So, it's an example. If you look at Tesla, example. So within the concept what we build is like very few seconds, you should be able to get the information from all the sources. At the same time, within 10 seconds, you should be able to apply all the AI metrics, like could be sentiment, could be clustering, and some other interesting things what we do. So API came out within 4 or 5 seconds, and it's actually processing quite a lot of data. And but that is articles, like you said, from Google, and also you can see from Facebook, and obviously Twitter and Instagram and Reddit. We keep on adding a lot of different things, and a lot of stats are so important. Like you see that, we have kind of a very specific topics, like an example, what is the risk there? What's our organizational changes, revenue warnings, how many have been happening? And also when you look at the customer side of it, you can have a lot of things about, again, reputational issues and things like, many things about, we just keep on adding a lot of things about the sentiments, clusters, and,
Can you pause here for 1 second?
So
you had date. So the idea here is, I think what you have is great, because you cover a huge amount of, you cover a list of, so is this a list? This is kind of a summary of several articles into one, right?
Yes, yeah, like a tree structure. Yeah, sure. So
what I would want to do here is I would want to kind of help, I don't want to say reverse engineer, because you have it's already engineered. What I would want to do is basically use your system as you have it to allow us to curate historical data points that fit that criteria. For example, say I wanted to look for news articles that had a risk score above 10, right? For HSBC that had an opportunity category 18 or something. The idea is that where organizational change was present. So there's a high risk organizational change event happening in HSBC, right? I would want to basically generate a list of prior data points that basically had that criteria based on your system. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think, how easy is that to do, first of all?
Yes, definitely. I think we can definitely take some, for sure. For us, I think we've been working on multiple data sets. Yeah, we can definitely give it a quick, what you call a POC test, for sure. Yes, not a problem.
Yeah, because I think that would be the easiest and fastest way to kind of just show immediate value to